Tomorrow night, our guest Rabbi Alon Anava, is going to be speaking actually at H. So he's going to be telling a remarkable story, which is the story of his near-death experience that put him in a coma and really transformed his life from being an Israeli atheist to what you see today. You know, the beard came after the coma. That was it, right? But he's a remarkable speaker. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard him. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard his story. So tonight's going to be a little bit... Yeah. Phones off, please. If anybody wants to record it, you can leave your phone up here too. I know a few people didn't want to record it. Tonight is a little bit moving away from what he usually speaks about a story. Maybe he'll get into it, that's up to him. But it's a little bit more, this was my personal, I actually made a request that he speak about this, that it's a little bit more about going through the journey and understanding the soul, the journey of the soul, and more specifically, each and every one of us, figuring out what the purpose of our specific soul here is. So what it is that we're doing here, what our soul is doing here, and hopefully we'll walk away with a lot more enlightenment than we started with. So without further ado, I'm going to let you get going. And
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me well in the back? Raise your hands if you can hear me. Very good. Okay. Thank you for the intro. My name is Alon Anava. And tonight, we're going to talk about a big question that everybody keeps asking themselves, and I keep having this question over and over. What the hell am I doing here? That's what everybody asks me. Before we're going to get into the little class or lecture, like Daniel said, tomorrow I'm speaking in Eshet Torah about my near-death experience. I grew up in Eretz Israel, in Israel, totally secular. The biggest atheist in history. My body's covered with tattoos. I had piercings all over my face. I was a complete nutcase. 13 years ago, I had a cardiac arrest from drugs. It's a whole story. I really suggest if you want to hear it, come tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the evening. Don't miss it. Don't ask me today about it. It's a 3-hour lecture. So, we all have the same question that we ask ourselves. What am I doing here? Why did I come here? What's this whole world about? What did I come to do in this world? More than that, we all run into difficulties. This is not working, that is not working. We all run into all sorts of problems that we can't figure out, thank you so much, the solution. So even though it's a very long subject, we're going to try to go tonight in a very short way, the reason why we came here. And in order to understand the problem better, or better to say it, in order for me to find a solution, I first have to understand the problem. So the problem started 5,775 years ago, when the world was created. When the world was created, God created a perfect world, everything was perfect. And at the end of the creation, after 6 days, God created a man and his wife, and he put them in this world. The Torah calls it Gan Eden, heaven, but he put them in this world. In essence, when they were created, you have to understand that Adam HaRishon, Adam, is not a person like how we think he is. This is a spiritual person. He was a pillar of light. He was God's creation. And he was supposed to do a few things in this world and then finish, and that's it. And go into Shabbat, and that's it. That was the whole purpose. He was supposed to come here for a couple hours, keep Shabbat, do a few mitzvot, and then leave the world. The problem started is when God gave him his wife. He gave him Chava, Eve. That's already started the problem. Mainly the problem started because you have to understand, Adam and Eve, they're not regular people, that they had all sorts of desires. And there was an internet then and things that they had to run after and look for. They were very spiritual beings. They were in such a high level that the Zohar says that Adam HaRishon was beaming from light, radiating from godly light, that his light was so strong that he made the sun look weak. It says, the Talmud says that Adam HaRishon was so great and big that he was 500 Amos, high. So we have to understand that it wasn't a regular person. Where did the whole problem start? That God told Adam HaRishon what he has to do. You have to do this, 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 and this. And it came in a certain order. The problem with Adam HaRishon, that he wanted to go to the top without going through the levels. There was levels that he had to climb. Those levels are the spiritual worlds that we learn about, that Kabbalah teaches, that the Zohar teaches, the four worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetziah, and Asiyah. Adam HaRishon was created in Olam Asiyah. He was supposed to climb slowly, and achieve and gain the levels of his neshama. We know our neshama has 5 levels. In each act, he was supposed to gain another level. The problem was that whenever his ego kicked in, that's when the problem started. Because if he didn't have any ego, he would listen to God and do exactly what God tells him. And there wouldn't be any problem. The problem started when he had an ego and he says, no, I can do better, I can reach higher without going through the order that I'm supposed to go to. The second that he let his ego, his own selfness, kick in, he pushed God away, so to say, and that's when it all started. Now the reality was that Adam HaRishon and Chava were spiritual beings. The Zohar explains they didn't have bodies like what we think. They were spiritual souls. It says right when they sinned, it says in the Torah, "Ve'albishem kutnot or." Right away after they sinned, Hashem dressed them into bodies because they couldn't sustain staying the level where they were. Now, according to what Kabbalah teaches us, that Adam HaRishon was a pillar of light. The second that he did something opposite, away from what God instructed him to do, the vessel, the spiritual vessel that was holding the light, exploded. The terminology Kabbalah uses, it's called Shvirat HaKelim. Kabbalah teaches us that everything in this world, in this physical world and the spiritual world, there's a vessel and there's a light. Light represents godliness. God shines light. Of course, it's not light like you see here in the ceiling. It's a spiritual light. But in order for the light to be contained in one place, there's a spiritual vessel that has to hold it. In this world, how it manifests, that you see that everything in this world has a vessel. Everything in this world has to be inside of a vessel. Even our body is the vessel to our soul. And even our body needs a vessel, we wear clothes. And our body needs a vessel, we live in a house. Everything in this world is in something. You get money, the money has to go into a bank account. Everything that you have in this world, you can compare it as a vessel and there's a light. The problem is that sometimes this spiritual light is greater than the capacity of the vessel. And what would happen? The vessel will explode. Later on, we're going to touch and see how it's corresponding to our life. When the light is too great that the vessel can't hold it. It's almost like giving a little kid in a beautiful home a 10-pound hammer. He doesn't know what to do with it. In 5 minutes, he demolishes the whole house because the light doesn't fit the vessel. What happened was with Adam HaRishon is that he was just radiating light. He was just doing God's will. The second that he went around and didn't listen, then he damaged his vessel. His vessel exploded. This is what Kabbalah calls Shvirat HaKelim, the explosion of the vessel. Kabbalah actually calls it Neshirat Evarim because Adam HaRishon had limbs and organs, and the second that this light exploded, all his limbs fell. They all broke. Now you have to understand that Gan Eden, heaven, is not a place here in this world. It's a spiritual place. That Adam HaRishon, his feet were in this world, but his head, his intellect, his soul was in a spiritual world. What happened was when he removed himself from that level, then all this spiritual light that he contained exploded. Now, again, you have to understand this is a spiritual explosion, but what happened was that this spiritual light exploded into millions and millions of sparks. And these sparks exploded all over the universe. Some of them went very, very, very far and landed in this physical world. Some of them didn't land so far, and they stayed in the spiritual realm. Each one of these sparks is one of us. Each and every one of us has a godly spark that belongs into one huge spiritual soul of Adam HaRishon, of the first man. And each and every one of us is a spark that went flying out of this explosion and landed in this world. Of course, later on, we're not here the first time. We're here already probably many times. Everybody's very, very, very interested to know about all the reincarnations and everything. The thing is that we're all reincarnated. We're not here for the first time. We're here, could be even 1,000 times. The first time that we came already with a mission. We were supposed to come down here and to fix something. Now we damaged it so many times that we have to come over and redo it and refix it. The reality is that each and every one of us is a reincarnation. We were already in this world probably many times. The Arizal explains that each soul has to come down to this world at least 3 times in reincarnations to do all 613 mitzvot in thought, speech, and action. And if that person did it, he completed his cycle and he goes back to where he came from. Most of the souls do not complete it. And most of the souls, if chas v'shalom, they made a sin along the way, they have to come back here to correct it. This is all of us. Now Rizal explains that there are 3 types of reincarnations. The first type is that a person damaged something in a previous life and he had to come back here to correct it. This is us. Another type of reincarnation is that a person had to finish all his journey, his mission, what he had to fix in this world. And he just came back here to fix it. This is in most cases not us. The way we know it, because the Zohar explains that if we're sinning in this reincarnations, means that we already sinned before, we just came to correct. If a person is here, he doesn't have any sins, doesn't sin, you see like this perfect person, then you know that he just came to complete his cycle. And of course, the third type of reincarnation is that a soul comes down to this world only to assist somebody else. And there are many people in this world that they came back to this world only to assist somebody. And then they leave. That's why you see sometimes little kids that they die, babies die, a person dies before their time when they're 16, 17. They only came down to this world to assist, and they go back to where they came from. Sometimes they only had to fix something real small. We're not going to get into this. Maybe another time we'll do a class about reincarnation. But a lot of people are very interested to know, most men are the ones who get reincarnated, the male part of the soul, and the women usually don't get reincarnated. The reason for that is that a man usually studies Torah, and with the merit of his Torah studies, he cannot go into Gehenna. He has to come back down here to fix his problems. A woman doesn't have that problem. She can go into Gehenna, wash the dirt off, and go into Gan Eden. The women who come down here to this world, they came because their other half was invited to come to this world, so the woman came. So all of you women who are looking for your other half and you can't find it, you have to understand that your other half is probably fixing something, and you in a spiritual level can actually assist him because you came down to assist him here in this world. So the reality, going back to the story, to the original, we all came down here to fix something. We didn't come down here to waste our time. We didn't come down here to make another $1 million. We came down here to fix something we damaged in a previous life. All these sparks that were exploded from this one big soul, each one landed somewhere else in the universe. That's why you see in the physical level that there's Jews everywhere in the world. Every corner of the world you'll find a Jew. And not because we don't have our land in Israel, because these sparks fell all over the world. And wherever you fell, this is where you have to elevate your part of the mission. And you see very clear that almost anywhere in the world there's Jews. Why? Because that particular Jew came down to that particular place in the world to sift through the dark and to find these godly sparks that connected to his soul, and he has to elevate them back to God. This is in general the reason why we came here. We were hired by the Master of the universe to sift through the dark, to sift through the sand, and pull out these diamonds and elevate them to God. Now the problem is that since we came here so many times, we already damaged different things, then now we already have to fix it. So since we came here already once, then we came another time, then we came another time, then we're half doing what we're supposed to do, half we're fixing what we did in different reincarnations, in previous lives. So that's why sometimes a person runs into a situation, he says, I don't understand, I'm doing everything right and nothing is working. Everything is not falling into place. Now to answer this in a more clear way, you have to understand, again going back to Adam HaRishon, Adam HaRishon was built from 613 channels. The Zohar explains that our soul is connected to God with a spiritual rope. The same way that in this physical level, if you look at a rope, it's built from many, many different thin strings. The same way, this spiritual rope that connects me, my soul, from my body to God, is built from this spiritual rope. That is, the spiritual rope is built from these little fibers, 613 fibers, corresponding to 613 mitzvot that we have in the Torah. And every mitzvah that I do, I create this fiber. And if I do all the mitzvot, then my rope, my spiritual rope, this pipe that connects me to God, is perfect. And then if I miss one mitzvah, I cut one rope off, one string. Then I miss another 10 mitzvot, I cut another 10. Then I do a few different sins, I start cutting it. Going on the physical level, if you start cutting and cutting and cutting, at some point there's no connection. To explain it in a more clear way, just look at technology. You want to learn about spirituality, you look at technology. One of the reasons why we have technology now, if you look at it, up until 100 years ago, thousands of years, the world was the same. Nothing changed for thousands of years. People were riding on donkeys, on horses, they had fire for light, they were cooking the same way, thousands of years, everything was the same. In one decade, everything changed, and now our technology is racing so fast that we can't even keep up with technology. The Rizal said almost 500 years ago that towards the end of this century, then the gates of wisdom in the spiritual world will open, which will correspond and manifest into this world, that the gates of wisdom in this world will open. That's why you see that in the last 100 years, technology is booming. And now in the last decade, you see that every year it's doubling. Why is all this? Because this is a tool for us to look at technology and to understand how the spiritual world is built. It's not for us to enjoy necessarily. Yes, it makes our life better. But if you want to learn about Elokut, about godliness, you look at technology. It's very, very simple. And when Mashiach will come very soon, the technology, what we have now, is going to be nothing compared to how it's going to be. The funniest thing, somebody sent me a video not too long ago on Facebook. Some of you are probably too young to remember, but I think like 20 years ago was a movie Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox. And I think that movie was in the 80s, and he went to the future in 2013. And there's a scene how he's in the future. Somebody sent me a video a few weeks ago. We're already past 2017. How are we comparing to what the producers thought 30 years ago? So we're not too far. Besides that he had like this flying skateboard, we're not too far from what their imagination was. Going back to my example, why am I saying that technology can teach us about our connection to God? If you remember, 15 years ago, the connection to the internet was through dial-up. You had to connect the wire to the wall, and you had to hear this funny noise for like 2 seconds. It would take like 5 minutes to send an email. Forget about opening a picture. Video wasn't even possible. I remember sending an email and sitting like this for 10 minutes for the email to go. Why? Because the connection was very, very thin. It was dial-up. It was working on telephone cables. Then we became much more advanced. Now we have broadband, high-speed internet. Within a second you stream a video. Why? The connection is wide. It's broadband, it's high-speed. If you look at the cable, it has like thousands of fibers in it. Why? It makes the information run very, very smoothly. Same thing in the spiritual term. If my connection to God is very, very weak, I'm not going to hear anything, I'm not going to understand anything. Going back to what I said before, the Zohar explains that our connection from our soul to God is with this rope. If my rope is 4G, it's high speed, it's broadband, no problem. I understand everything, I hear everything, I see everything. But if I'm starting to choke this connection, then I'm not going to hear nothing, I'm not going to see nothing. That's why you see people in our generation, they come to do a mitzvah. Nothing. I didn't feel anything. You come to a person, you put tefillin on him. Yeah, okay. No, I don't feel anything. Here the connection is dead. Of course you can't hear anything. Not too long ago a girl came to our Shabbat table and my wife told her maybe you want to light candles. She never lit candles. So she light candles and she was like, I don't feel nothing. Of course you don't feel nothing. You're not connected. There's no connection. So the reality is we are responsible to the connection we have with the world above. And exactly how the Zohar says that our soul is connected to God with this spiritual rope. This rope is built from many different fibers. Each mitzvah, every good deed that I do, I strengthen this fiber. If not, I cut it. There's no connection, then I can't hear it. Going back to what I was explaining with Adam HaRishon, with the first man, he was straight close to the source. And you have to understand that God is something that we can't understand what it is. Doesn't matter how much you're going to question, what you're going to learn, how much you're going to research. Our mind cannot fathom what God is. So there's almost no point of even searching too much, because our mind is not a vessel to hold such a big thing. It's almost like giving a little baby, a 2-year-old baby, 500 pounds weight. You can't move it, you can't understand it. But the reality is that God is this endless power of good that just shines all day long. Shines this godly light, this abundance, this blessing, and it constantly shines. It doesn't stop for a second. God doesn't have 1 ounce of negativity. It's all good. Now, if I'm now outside on the street and the sun is shining, then no problem. I see the sun, I feel the warmth on my hand, everything is good. If I'm going to go now into a structure, that's it. The sun is not even touching me anymore. So the light automatically diminishes. And if I go into a room and I start closing the windows, then it starts becoming dark into the room. Now I didn't turn the sun off. The sun is shining exact same power. I did not affect the sun. What did I do? I just closed the windows. And then if I put shutters and drapes, I'm the one who's pushing the light away from me. The light shines the exact same power. I did not affect the sun 1 second. The sun shines exactly the same everywhere. But if you move away from the sun, then you start getting the light diminished and the warmth. The same thing with us. If I put myself close to the light, close to the source, no problem. I see it, I hear it, I feel it, I have no problem. The problem is when I start removing myself. When I start removing myself, then I don't feel anything. Now if I'm now going to start dimming the light, then the darkness will hit. Why? Because I'm dimming the light. If I'm going to move away from the light source, then the light will start getting darker. If I'm standing and there's a speaker with music going on and I move myself far away, the further I go, the less I hear. Now I'm not affecting the music, I'm not affecting the light, I'm just removing myself from a position that is close to the source. When Adam HaRishon sinned, and he did the first sin, and all this light exploded, he created a negative energy that Kabbalah calls it klipa, like a shell. Like a fruit has a shell, a peel. Now you can't eat the peel, it's not edible. You look at an orange, you're not going to eat the peel, you have to peel it off, throw the peel and eat the fruit itself. The same way in the spiritual level. If I do a certain act, then I create this energy force, this negative energy force that surrounds my soul. This is called klipa. And I do another bad act, I cause another of this klipa. Another bad act, another one of this. To a point that my soul is covered with so many layers that I'm so far away from the source of light, I don't see anything, I don't hear anything, I don't feel nothing, so I don't feel anything, I know no sensitivity to spirituality. That's why most people in our generation, you come and tell them to do something spiritual, I don't see anything about it. You tell a person, you want to put tefillin on? Leave me alone. Tell a person, you want to come for a Shabbat meal? What are you talking about? I'm going to a movie. Why you see this coldness? Because the soul is covered. It can't see anything, can't hear anything. The problem is that I'm the one who removes myself from it. Now, if I'm going to start bringing myself closer to the source, then I'm not going to have a problem. I'll hear, I'll feel, I'll see everything. You talk to a person that is connected spiritually to the ultimate source of life. Of course, I do a mitzvah, I feel right away. I do something wrong, I feel right away. Why? Because I'm connected. So all this short introduction is to understand one very simple thing. If I don't connect myself to the source, I'm not going to feel nothing. Everything will be a blur, everything will be a confusion, nothing will make sense, and I'm going to go like a drunk person in this world. I don't see nothing, like a darkness. There's some type of a shield on our eyes that we don't see what's going on. We see this world, how our eyes and brain is designed to see this world, but the reality is that there's a completely different world around us. Our eyes has a spiritual shield. The easiest way to explain it, going back to what I said before, that technology can teach us about Elokut, about godliness. Look at a computer. Look at a computer screen. You see a beautiful website, gorgeous website. And every button that you press opens a different page, and there's videos and pictures, and the whole website is gorgeous and beautiful. What would you see if hypothetically you would remove the screen? What would you see? You would see the code that creates the website. Now, how does it work? If you're not a coder, if you're not a designer, it's just a bunch of letters, nothing makes sense. But how does it work that a person comes, types all sorts of codes, and voila, beautiful picture, beautiful design? Must be that behind the design there's something more sophisticated that we can't see and we can't understand. The reality is this is how the world is. We just have a design thrown on our eyes, so we see a beautiful world, and we see trees, and we see the sky, and the ocean, and animals, and we see a whole world going on here. But nothing makes sense. Why? Because my soul is not aligned with my body, and I'm not connected to the source of life. If I want to connect myself to the source of life, I need to do what the one who gives the source tells me what to do. Adam HaRishon, in the beginning, he listened to God. There was no problem. Then when he didn't listen, it says very clearly in the Torah, in the Bible. It says in the beginning, you can eat from this tree and that tree. Don't touch that tree. Very simple. And right now, it's prohibited for you. Later on, you can eat from that tree, the tree of knowledge. Later on, you can eat from the tree of life. The second that Adam did whatever he wanted, then he separated himself from the source. And that's where it all started. And up until today, we're paying for it. So the reality is that if I want to understand why am I here, what am I doing here, what's my past, what am I supposed to do in this world, then first of all I have to go to the original. Where did I come from? What's giving me my life? If I'm going to connect myself to the source of life, then I have no problem. Then I am going to get the information very clear. Now the reality is that nothing makes sense in this world. Everywhere you go, you bump into problems. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. Should I study that? Should I study this? Should I become a lawyer? Should I become a doctor? Should I marry that guy? Should I marry this guy? Nothing makes sense. Why? Because the eyes are not aligned with what's going on in this world. So we judge this world according to our common sense, according to what we were brought up, according to our surrounding, according to everything but what we're supposed to. And that's why you see that many people, especially in our generation, nothing's focused. They go this, that doesn't work. They open this business, doesn't work. They go to study that one, they can't finish. They go on 100 dates, they can't find the other half. Why? Because you're walking in circles. You don't focus yourself in the right direction. The only way to focus yourself in the right direction is you have to connect yourself to broadband. You can't be running on old style dial-up. I'm not joking. If you connect yourself to the source of information with a bad connection, of course you're not going to hear anything. You're going to go on a date, you're going to sit in front of the person. I don't know if I like him, maybe he's the right one, maybe he's not the right one. How can you figure it out if you're like a blind person or like a drunk person going around the street? So to kind of sum it up and to understand the point is that God is endless amount of abundance of everything, of goodness. God just wants to shower you with everything that you need, with health and money and a husband or wife and everything that you want. God wants to give it to you. You have to understand two things. One, half the things that I want is not necessarily what I'm supposed to get. It's my ego. I want a nicer car because all my friends have a nice car. And I want to do this and I want to do that because it's my ego. That was the problem that Adam had. He had an ego. I wanted to reach higher, faster. So you have to understand that half of what you want, you're not supposed to even get, and it doesn't matter how much you're going to chase it, you're not going to get it. If it's written in the code that you're not supposed to get a certain things, doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to bang your head at the wall 50 times. You're not going to get it. And then you're going to get depressed and discouraged. And all the problems that most people get is because they're going in the wrong direction. A good friend of mine opened a business. The best idea in history. I'm going to be the next Facebook. He had the $1 billion idea. Doesn't matter what he did, the business did not work. And he invested money and brought the best people to market it and this and that. Doesn't matter what he did. 5 years, the business was a failure. Finally, I told him, don't you get it? Don't you understand this business is not for you? Don't you understand you're going on a completely different path? It will never work. Now, if you let your own ego drive you, you'll never get to where you're supposed to go to. If you become a null to the universe, then Hashem will take you exactly where you have to get. He will pave you the road. Again, going back to technology, we go into a car, I want to get to a destination. What do? I punch the address in the GPS. The GPS tells me, you can take the 101, it will take you such and such time because there's draft traffic. You can take the 405, don't go there, there's an accident. There's many different routes to get to the same destination. But if I'm not going to the destination, the GPS will keep saying, recalculating. Why? I'm going in the wrong places. The thing is that there's a spiritual GPS. If I put the address in the spiritual GPS, it will take me exactly where I have to go, and it will give me like ways, the shortest way. I just have to be annulled to the GPS. If I have my own ego, no, I'm going to take this street now. Okay, take this street now. We'll take another hour to get there. The problem is that half of what we're running after is not supposed to be ours even. You have to start internalizing it that maybe I'm running after the wrong thing. Maybe I'm trying too hard in the wrong area. Maybe that is not the right person. Why are you dating him for 2 years? It's not the right person. You're wasting your time. Maybe this is not the trade you have to learn. Whatever it is. So half of what we're trying to achieve, it's just our ego driving us, and that's why we will never achieve it. And why the second that we're not going to achieve it, the person will become depressed and discouraged and upset and all these negative things. Why? Because I didn't make it. Yeah, you weren't supposed to make it. The other problem is that in order for me to get something from this endless abundance, I need to connect myself. If I'm not going to get connected, doesn't matter how much the sun is going to light. If I'm standing in the shade, I'll never get a tan. I need to be connected. I need to be next to the light. The only way for me to connect myself to the source is if I do what the source tells me to do, not what my ego tells me to do. If I do what the source, I'm calling the source, it's God. If I do what he tells me to do, then I start building these channels where I'm starting to get my abundance. My money, my health, my other half. You can find your other half, but have the worst marriage in history. Why? You're blocking these channels where the abundance is coming from. This abundance is coming from the spiritual world through these channels. 613 channels. If you keep the pipes clean, there's not going to be a problem with the abundance. If you're choking the pipes, then there's going to be a problem with the abundance. If you're cutting the pipes, forget about it. So the only one that we can complain to why we're not getting what we want is myself. If I'm lacking something, I can't complain at everybody around me. I have to look in myself, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? If I'm doing something wrong, must be that I'm blocking this abundance to come for me. Now the thing is, there comes a big question. How do I know what am I supposed to do here? I came down to this world, I'm totally confused. First of all, what am I supposed to do in this world? Because I came down to this world with a mission. I came down to find these godly sparks that belong only to me. Only to me. They don't belong to anybody else. And only I can release them from the klipa, from this negative energy that is trapped in. And as long as they're trapped in, I'm not doing my missions, I'm going to have a problem. And the problem is that either nothing in my path will work, either it's going to start affecting me mentally. That's why you see half this nation, half this world are depression pills. Why? Things don't work. So the soul becomes very, very heavy. The reality is, each and every one of us, you have to first figure out, okay, what am I doing in this world? I came to do some type of a mission. The easiest way to figure out what is my part in this world is you look in yourself and you become very truthful to yourself, and you say, what are the 10 hardest things for me to do? That's what I have to correct in this world. Now, I didn't come down to this world to correct something like very noble and big. People think they came here like a Jedi, I'm going to change the world. No, that's not how it works. Since my soul is a spark from Adam Arishon, Adam, and he damaged something that is affecting me, that I have to correct something in me. That's the correction. So if you want to know exactly what's your correction, you make a list of the 10 hardest things for you that you hate the most to do. That's your correction. One person is the hardest thing for them to be honest all day long. They just lie. Lie here, lie here, lie here, cheat in business. They can't keep nothing truth comes out of their mouth. This is a big thing. People think, sins, to kill somebody, to do this. No. What you do with your mouth is 100 times worse than what you can do with your hands. So if a person has a problem that all day long no one word of truth comes from his mouth, that's a correction that he has to do. One person has a different problem. Each person has a different problem. It's hard for them. One person can't shut their mouth all day long just gossiping. One person is the biggest cheater ever. Everywhere he goes, he has to cheat. Each person can look in the mirror and says, come on, let's be real now. There's nobody in the room. What are the bad things that I cannot hold myself? And if you look deep down inside of you and you start correcting these little points in you, first of all, you're achieving the ultimate thing. You're doing your correction. Your correction is not to go around the world and save kids in Africa and all sorts of things. No, you want to do that? That's great. Your correction in this world is what is the hardest thing for you to achieve. And you look into yourself, that's the only way to know. The other thing to know is that you just look at your surrounding. Where do I live? What is my talents? What is my profession? What am I good at? You take all these things together, it will give you a beautiful roadmap. Because if God put you in Los Angeles, must be that your sparks are in Los Angeles. It's very simple to understand. And if nothing works out here, and you hate this place, and you hate everybody, maybe you have to move to a different place because that's not your place. God is kicking you. Move out. It's not your place right now. More than that, look at your talents. Every person in the world has a talent. There's no such a person in the world that doesn't have a talent. Some even people with their talent is just talking. They're very persuasive. They're very smart with their tongue. Each person has a talent. Put everything together, your talent, your desires, your things that you really, really like. Put everything together, and it will draw you a beautiful map. Where you're supposed to be. Because if I'm a very good speaker, then I can use my talent for positive things, and I can use my talent for negative things. If I use my talent for something positive, then I'm actually going on my path. If I'm using my talent for something very negative, then I'm damaging my path and I'm moving away from the light. A person can be very, very persuasive with his mouth, and I can convince somebody now to come to a nice lecture, or to come to a Shabbat meal, or to come and learn with me. But I can go and convince somebody to do something bad, or use my talent to manipulate things. You have to see how you can control every little thing with your abilities. And God gave each and every one of us an ability. Something special that only I'm good at, And if I'm using it negative, then I'm damaging everything. Every little thing. All these channels that connect me to God, I'm damaging it. If I'm using it positive, I'm correcting my soul. First of all, I have to correct my soul. Not fix the soul. There's nothing wrong with the soul. You have to understand our soul is built from 5 levels. The first 4, we don't have to correct anything. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the lowest one. It's called nefesh. That's the one what I'm not supposed to correct. That's why my nefesh is in my body. And I have to do it together. My body and my nefesh. The physical and the spiritual. That's what I have to correct. So first of all, you have to correct what's inside of you. So if you correct what's inside of you, first of all, you're doing the ultimate reason why you came down to this world. God didn't send you down to this world to make another $1 million or to live in a nicer house or to go on another vacation. That's from the side. That's for you to enjoy on your free time. There's a reason why you came down to this world. And every second that you're not fulfilling it, then you're walking backwards. While you're walking backwards, nothing will ever work. And if it would work, it will be temporary and then a failure and another failure and another failure. Sometimes a person can connect himself to the wrong source. It would seem like everything is going well, but it will only hold for a year or 2. That's it, and then it crashes, it falls. So you have to pay attention on the path that you're walking on. The first thing you have to do is you have to see, how am I correcting myself? And the hardest things are the things that are inside of us. Lying, cheating, thoughts that are in my mind, gossiping, all those things. And everybody's failing in that. Because it's the easiest thing to, okay, that person is this person is that. Somebody once told me, what do you think are the most important things that one needs to hold themselves? Then I explained that there are 7 gates in our body. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. If you guard these gates, you're not going to have any problems. The problem is that all these gates are abused by everybody. The most severe gate is the mouth. What goes in the mouth and what goes out of the mouth. Some people are very, very particular with what goes into their mouth, with their diet, kosher, whatever, healthy. What goes out of the mouth is even more dangerous. A few years ago, I came back from Yom Kippur after a whole day in the synagogue, and my wife and me were sitting down, talking to each other. And we didn't use the word resolution, but I told my wife, what is your hachlata for this year? Then she tells me, what is yours? So I told her, I decided to stop lying. Tell me, you don't lie. I told her, oh yeah, I lie. I lie all the time. Because if I'm late to an appointment and I tell them, don't ask, there was such an accident, and a policeman stopped me, and the car didn't start, and just tell them you woke up late. What's the big problem? That's a lie. And if you look at yourself, we lie like 20 times a day like that, without even blinking your eyes. Somebody calls you, I've been looking you for the whole week. Oh, don't ask, I'm swamped with work. Just tell them, tell the truth. So what comes into our mouth is a very, very important. And here I'm talking about 2 major things, the kosher diet and the nutrition we put in our mouth. How they say in America, you are what you eat. The kosher diet is not to make our life limited, that we can't eat in all the restaurants that we want. There's a specific reason why we eat kosher. Because every food that we put in our mouth becomes part of my body, which goes into my soul. There's a great, great reason for that. You want to keep your mind pure, you keep your soul pure, which means you guard what comes into your mouth. What goes out of your mouth damages all the paths that you build. You can be 99% perfect here. You just damage with your mouth. Everything that you build, you damage. So to make a very long story short, the reason why we came down to this world is we came to do something on a very large scale. In a personal level, I came to fix something that I damaged in a previous life, and I came to fix something that I was hired. I was hired to come down to this world to release these godly sparks that belong to me. And when I release them, not only did I bring them back to their source, I'm actually fulfilling pieces of my soul. I feel more complete with myself. I feel more fulfilled. I don't need success stories in my life to feel happy. It's the spiritual things that I do that makes me feel happy. Then I have to look at it in a global way. I'm here part of a huge system, and I came here to do a job. And the only way to really find out and to tap into the source of this abundance is only if I get closer and closer to the source of light. If I remove myself by my acts, by my deeds, by my thoughts, by my speech, I'm just removing myself from the source of light. Nothing will ever be clear. Nothing will ever be clear. You'll sit in a date, you're never going to know if that's the right person. You're going to do whatever you need to do, whatever you want to do. Nothing in this world will be easy. Everything will come with a lot of hardship. Am I doing the right decision? Should I move there? Should I move there? Everybody comes to me with the same question. I don't know what to do. Should I go study in that university? Should I go study this? I don't know if to study to become a doctor. Of course everything is such a mess because your soul is not centered. It's not aligned with your body. You align your soul with your body, everything will be easy. You'll know exactly where you need to go, where you have to live, who you have to marry. You'll sit in front of your other half. That's the person right away. I know. No questions. No questions. And it's with everything. So you want to achieve, you want to reach to the point that your life is going smooth, is you concentrate on how you connect yourself to the source. Anything that is ego-driven will drive you away from the source. Because your ego is your spiritual voice that's telling you, no, do it your way, you're smarter. Yeah, you're smarter. It will take you another whole decade to come back to the same point to find out that, wow, I wasted 10 years. Don't be smart. Just listen to the source. My father once told me, when I was a very little kid, in life, don't be right, be smart. If you want to be right, then you'll never get anywhere. If you want to get somewhere, you're smart. You just do what you need to do. And when you center your soul, when you align it, when you connect it to its source, everything will start coming, A, in an abundance, you're not going to have a problem, and B, and the most important thing, it will be clear. The problem is that something can be in front of your face. You just don't see it. So the only way to realize what I have to do here is that I have to center myself, I have to feed my soul, what my soul wants, even though it doesn't really fit my needs, and it's a little bit hard for me to control what I eat, and it's a little bit hard for me to lie a little bit less here, and it's hard for me to do what the Master of the Universe tells me to do, but if I want to go on the right path, I have to annul myself, I have to annul my desires to what the Source is telling me to do. And if I do that, ultimately I gain my ultimate happiness. Why? Because I'll find the best job ever, and I'll live exactly where I'm supposed to live, and I'll marry the right person, and everything will be smooth. As long as I don't do it, I might be going on the right path, but it's going to be so rocky that you're not going to enjoy anything. And really be truthful to yourself. Look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, am I really, really happy? Because most people inside, they're not really happy. Why? Because something is missing. And it's not the extra zero in the bank account. That's not what's going to make a person happy. What's going to make a person happy is inside. A person can have everything in this world, money and kids and everything. If there's a hole inside, they'll never be happy. So I wish you great success. We're going to take a little bit of time for some questions and answers. Then you're going to enjoy the beautiful kosher meal. And after that, if you want, maybe we'll do some more questions and answers. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how everything goes. But to sum it all up in one very short sentence is, if you want to reach the destination fast with no problems on the way, is just if you connect yourself to the right data source. I was driving now up here. For 1 second I lost data. The GPS went crazy. Why? Because I'm not connected to the data. If I connect myself to the source, then my path will be fast and easy and smooth. If I don't connect myself, you're going to get lost 50 million times. So just know, find your connection, how you connect yourself. The best way to do this connection is through connecting to the source, is doing exactly what God tells you to do. You have to do His commandments. And then you have to refine yourself, your attributes. And don't think that what you work on inside yourself doesn't make a difference. People think that, no, I have to do big things. Work on yourself. Don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. All these little things that nobody sees. Nobody sees if I'm cheating right now, if I'm lying, if I'm truthful, if I'm looking at the right person, maybe I'm looking at the wrong person, maybe I'm looking the wrong way. Maybe I'm doing, in my mind, I can cook up a lot of things. Wherever you know there's no eyes looking at you and you can do whatever you want, that's the big test. So you first work on yourself inside and you'll see that you slowly start refining yourself. So I wish you great success. God should bless you with all the abundance that you wish for yourself. You should all find your path very safe and very easy and very fast, and everything that your heart desires should be fulfilled in the best way. If you want, we're going to have, I think, about 15 minutes of some questions. I'll try to get to everybody. If you have later on more questions, I'm still going to hang out around here. We can continue some more questions. And if not, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה b'doro. Yes.
I apologize for coming late. With respect to filling the void, what would you say is the easiest place to start or begin for someone who has not really connected on that level with their soul to the main source? What would you say is the easiest?
Each individual is totally different.
Correct.
What is hard for you is easy for me. By the way, did everybody hear the question? No, I'll just repeat the question. He's asking if a person wants to create this connection to the source, what is the easiest thing to do? As a start, of course. The reality is each person is different. Something can be very hard for me, and it's the easiest thing for you. And what's the easiest thing for you is maybe hard for me. One person, it's the hardest thing for him not to lie. And for the other person, he's by default, he's the most honest person in the world. The reality is that we have to connect to our source in 3 different levels. The first level is actually doing physical acts that are called mitzvot. Because the mitzvot, people think that the translation of a mitzvah is a commandment. The right word, this is the problem when you're taking biblical words and you translate it into English, it's not the right translation. A mitzvah comes from the word tzavta. Tzavta means chibur, connection. When I do a mitzvah, it's not that I'm doing a commandment that God told me to do and standing in the heavens with a stick. If you're not going to do it, I'm going to burn you. Rather, God told me, you want to connect to me? I give you 248 channels to connect with me. A mitzvah is a connection. So if I want to have a connection, then I have to do some type of an act. The more acts that I do, the more channels I build for this connection. So first you have to connect to the source with some type of an act. So if you're a man, the easiest and most simplest one is you put tefillin in the morning, 5 minutes. Exactly 5 minutes is what it takes. You put the tefillin, you read the Kriyat Shema, you say your blessings. In 5 minutes you get 8 of the greatest mitzvahs a man can reach, 5 minutes, just like that. More than that, there's so many of these channels. When I became religious when I was 29 years old. And I told you, if you want to hear, come tomorrow to Esha Torah. It's a very, very special story how I became religious. I had to change my life when I was 29 years old. And I was the biggest troublemaker in history. Can you imagine in 1 second to change my entire being? I'm not talking about the external part. The external part came after many years. But to stop lying, to stop cheating, to stop doing all sorts of things that I like, that was very hard. So I said, don't give me the Shabbat, don't give me all these big things, give me the small things. So I would do every day maybe 100 mitzvot that are small. Everything was, business was as usual. And no beard, no yarmulke, no tzitzis, no nothing. I looked like a regular person, but I was able to pack in maybe 100 mitzvot every day. Why? Because I chose the easiest ones. And it's the easiest way to explain it. It's like going to a gym, and you look at the gym, you see this guy, big muscles, and he's like all pumped up. You're like, wow, I want to be like that. And you start, working with the weights. You lift up a 21 pound, you can't move it. And then you do a wrong move, your back goes on you. Why? Because the guy is working out for 5 years. You start with 5 pounds, and you push a little bit, and you come the next day, you do 10 pounds, and you build it up. So the easiest way is you look at what's the easiest things for you to do, and you grab as many of them as you can. And it goes to everyone. And it's what is easy for you. Because what's easy for you, it's easy for you, not necessarily easy for me. The point is not to go on the big things, because the big things, most people will fail right away. You grab 10, 20 easy things that take 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 3 seconds, that don't cost a lot of money, and you all day long, you pack it in. That's what I used to do for 2 years. Every second I would do something small. Why? Because here it was already the quantity, not the quality. And whatever I did with all my heart. I didn't do it because I was just saying, okay, now I'm going to do this, and the business deal is going to close. I didn't do conditions. I did whatever I had to do because that's the right thing to do. That's what's going to connect me to the source. This is what's going to give me this abundance. And I was able to slowly, gradually grow higher and higher, and then do bigger things. And then you weren't here in the beginning. I was talking about the vessel and the light. The vessel grew. The more the vessel grew, there was more room for more light. God constantly wants to give you more. But if I only have a little cup, I can only get 7 ounces of water. That's it. I cannot get more. Same way in the spiritual bank. God wants to give you everything. He tells you, build me a vessel, I'll give you more. Bigger vessel, I'll give you more. That's the easiest way. You start with small steps. Yes?
You use a lot of examples of Kabbalah in your lecture.
Just talk a little bit louder.
I was saying you use a lot of examples of Kabbalah in your lecture, and I was wondering what role did Kabbalah play when you become religious?
I didn't hear the last minute.
I said, what role did Kabbalah play with you becoming religious?
He's asking what does Kabbalah has to do with me becoming religious, right?
Yeah, like what role did it?
Okay. Kabbalah up until a few hundred years ago was a mystery. Nobody knew anything about it. The world was not prepared to understand it. That's why only very few people were able to learn it. It's not new. Kabbalah is from the first day of creation. The first person who wrote the book of Kabbalah is Adam HaRishon. And it went down in the generations. It's not that Arizal 500 years ago wrote Kabbalah. It was already given face to face between God and Adam. And he passed it over to Shet, and then Avraham Avinu, and so forth, and it went in the generations. The problem was that the world was not ready for that. But 500 years ago, the Arizal says now the world is prepared to start learning it, start teaching it. It took 300 years till Chassidut came down to the world with the Baal Shem Tov, and then he started spreading it out. The reality is that in our generation, everybody has to learn it. Because at the time of the redemption, our entire behavior will be based on Kabbalah. Now, Kabbalah is a big terminology. Kabbalah is not what you learn in the Kabbalah Center. That's not Kabbalah. That's, the little bit, that's not even the hors d'oeuvre of the real Kabbalah. The reality is that the mysticism of the Torah is the food. You have to have it. If you don't have it, you can't even proceed. You can't even get closer to the source. The lower level of what that is revealed, it's important and you have to know it. But any type of mysticism, whether it's Kabbalah or Zohar or Chassidut, all these things, it's a must. If you want to reach greater levels, you have to walk on this path, because it gives you all the tools how to connect really with the Creator. What I'm talking to you now is this is like the baby steps when you start. When a person really wants to reach higher and higher levels, he has to build these channels. These channels are only going to be built with purity. Purity of the mind, purity of the mouth, purity of the soul. A person will not reach higher levels if he doesn't purify himself, segregate himself from the world. And Kabbalah gives you all the tools how to walk on the path to create exactly with your Creator. And the more you're connected, the more you're going to be flying. If you're not connected to the Creator, you have to have the mysticism of the Torah. This is there's a greater story why the Torah came how it came. Because the angels, they demanded from God that they should get the Torah. And then there was a whole story. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the heavens, and God told him, you convince them, you argue why you have to get the Torah. Long story short, Moshe Rabbeinu proved it that everything in the Torah has to do with human beings. Has nothing to do with angels. If you look at the 10 Commandments, don't kill, don't commit adultery, respect your parents. Moshe Rabbeinu told the angels, you have parents. You kill each other. You have envy. You cheat on each other. You don't have that thing. It has to do with us. Long story short, the Torah was written how the mystical part was written. But for the angels not to have a fight, God swiveled all the letters. And he made a whole mishmash. What came from it is the Torah that we read, the stories, which actually happened. But if you notice in every synagogue, when they finish reading the Torah, they lift up the Torah and they turn it around. Why? Because the real Torah is in the back. We're reading the back. The front is what we don't see. It's the spiritual part of it. And soon when Mashiach will come, the concealment, the mysticism is going to be revealed, and we're going to have all the tools how to reach our Creator. So if one wants to reach his source, he has to learn mysticism. No doubt. Wait, yeah. Just a little bit loud. It's a long question, but he's saying, I'll rephrase it. If God is so good, how come God gives us the option of choosing between something that I'm going to do and I'm going to get a reward, or something bad that I'll do and I'll get a punishment? Did I rephrase it in short version?
Well, sort of. I mean, what I'm saying is, let's say you have like a father, takes his father to the son to an ice cream store, right?
Okay.
Knowing that the son has this inclination towards ice cream, and every time the son desires ice cream, he smacks him in the head and says, "How dare you want ice cream?" So that's what I'm saying. How's that kind?
Okay. The example that you gave with the father, that's not a good example with God. Because what puts this ice cream in front of me is not necessarily God. You have to understand, everybody blames God to every bad thing that happens. The problem is that most people don't blame themselves for the bad thing that happened. Now, if I now go and I do a bad deed, okay? Let's call it a sin. The second I did a sin, I created an angel that the Talmud calls it Malach Kabbalah, destructive angel, an angel that comes to annoy me. So I get a ticket, and then I can't find parking, and then this deal doesn't close, and this doesn't work, and I lose my phone, and constantly something is annoying me. It's not God doing it. I disconnected myself from the realm of holiness. The Baal Shem Tov explains that there's two chambers in the heavens. A chamber where all the abundance of holiness is coming from, and a chamber where all the abundance of negativity, of unholiness comes from. If I channel myself to the chamber of Kedusha, of holiness, then everything I draw down to me is holy. If I channel myself to the chamber of unholiness, everything that is unholy will come to my direction. It's kind of like who do I hang out with? If I hang out with the right crowd, then I'm not going to get in trouble and everything will be nice and I'll learn from my tests. If I hang out with the wrong crowd, I'll go and steal with them, then I'll get arrested, then I'll get thrown into jail. It's who am I hanging out with? Now, if I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd, if I'm drawing this abundance from the wrong chamber, then I brought it on myself. It's almost like the father telling his son, don't go with these guys, they'll get you in trouble. Don't call me later to bail you out. I told you to hang out with these guys. So it's very easy to put a finger and say, oh, God is being mean to me. No, 90% of what is in front of us, we created. If I channel myself just to the realm of Kedusha, I'm not going to have that. Now here comes how you said with the ice cream. This is a very big, broad topic, but God wants you to overcome your desires. Why? We're not going to understand. God has some type of a joy, some type of a satisfaction when you had something to struggle and you overpowered it. The Zohar calls it itkafia. Itkafia means that you subdue something. One of the most popular sports in the world is fighting. Put two men in the ring, everybody goes crazy. Why? You like seeing another man punches another person in the face? But most people, they see a boxing, a martial arts, whatever now, they have all these fancy new styles. Everybody loves it. Why? Because you want to see who will overpower the other one. And when your guy overpowers the other one with a sophisticated kick, everybody goes crazy. Why? What are you, sadistic? You want to see two people beating up themselves? No. The same thing, God puts an opponent in front of you. And he says, come on, beat him up. So he puts some type of a desire in front of you. An ice cream, a beautiful girl, something. He wants to see if you're going to, like a little puppy, go, or if you're going to fight. That's what God wants, and he's getting some type of a happiness from it. The Zohar explains it. What's the happiness? That if I do itkafia is to subdue. What's the reaction? Ithapcha. Ithapcha is to transform. The verse that the Zohar is saying is Ithapcha chashocha lenahora, transforming the darkness into light. In this desire that about this ice cream that I want is hidden a godly spark. If I fail, then I lost the ring, I'll come back to another test. If I overpowered it, I took out this godly spark out of it and delivered it to God, and I won like the mega million jackpot. Why? I made God happy. Because I overpowered an inclination. Now you have to be very smart, you have to see what's the difference. What's a real test from God, and what is something that I created and now I have to deal with it. 90% of what we deal with is what we created, not God. God didn't send anything wrong to you. Sometimes He brings you some type of a test. He wants to see how you're going to react. The Zohar says that He gives a parable of a king that wanted to see how worthy his son is to become the next king. So he hired a prostitute, excuse my language, but that's what the Zohar says, and he told her, go and seduce my son. I want to see if he's strong. And she was like, I don't want to do that when I'm going to make the prince fail now. But the king told me what to do. I have to do it. So she goes and she seduces him. This is exactly what God does. He wants to see how strong you are, how worthy you are, because every time you overpower an inclination, the ice cream can come in many different ways. You feel like lying right now. You feel like cheating. You feel like saying the most juicy gossip that you just heard. If you hold yourself, you can't even imagine what you created in the spiritual world. You broke all these klipot. Remember before I said these klipot, these negative energy that surrounds the soul? You do one kvetch like this, you break like 1,000 of them. And that's why God wants you to overpower it. The problem in our generation is that the first prostitute, again, excuse my language, didn't want to do the dirty job. She hired another girl. And she told her, go do this and this. So the second girl didn't want to do it also. She hired another one, and another one, another one. And now, the one who comes to us, it's already 20 generation, that prostitute doesn't even know the king hired her. That's the problem in our generation. And most of the things that we deal with is our own acts. It's a mirror. If I do just good and kindness, it will reflect on me. I do bad. If bad reflects at me, all sorts of negativity, don't blame the boss. Look in the mirror and says it's reflecting. I'm making the face to the mirror is answering back. So this is a short answer to a very big question. Yes. Wait, you're in the back with the green. Okay, she's asking that it says, the Zohar, Kabbalah, that women come down to the world to assist their husband. But what happens for the single women? First of all, a lot of the women, they didn't come down just to assist their husband. That's, we would like to think that all the women are righteous, but most of them are not. They came down to fix something they did. In this generation, there's such a confusion. You have to understand, a woman and a man, this is in the physical world, there's a female part of the soul and a male part of the soul. Sometimes a female soul goes into a male body, and sometimes a male soul goes into a female body. There's all sorts of confusion in many, many times. But to give you a very short answer, is that the woman, while she's single, till she meets her husband, spiritually she can assist her husband. Not physically, spiritually. That's why I said before that all the single women that still didn't find their other half, if they work on themselves spiritually, your other half is a mirror. It's one soul. The Zohar explains that before the soul goes down to the world, there's a special angel that cuts the soul in half. The female part of the soul dives into the female body, and the male part of the soul dives into the male. One falls in Los Angeles, one falls in England. 30 years they're walking around the world, and whoop, then they meet. And then they get married. Now, if they're lucky, they meet the right one. A lot of people are not lucky. They're not meeting the right one. That's why there's 70% divorce, because they're not meeting the right one. The decision is based on the wrong things. How much money, how he looks, if she's beautiful, who's the parents. It's not the wrong decision. The problem is a lot of people don't marry the right way. Right way, I mean exactly how the Torah tells us, with a chuppah, with kosher witnesses, the whole thing. Sometimes the chuppah is not kosher, and then the the connection is not well, because during the chuppah, God sews the souls together. And if there's not a kosher chuppah, then there's a problem. There's not a good connection. But until that day, it's the same soul in different bodies. If I sin, my other half suffers. If I'm doing good, my other half is doing good too. So if you want to assist your husband before you met him, if you do good, he will do good. It will work, it will assist him, of course, in a spiritual level. And what's going to happen is when it's time for you to actually meet, then it will be very clear and very obvious. You're not going to go on 1,000 dates. You're just going to see the person, that's the one. But a woman can assist her husband way before she got married, spiritually. Not physically, well, physically with her acts, but this is more spiritually. In regards to a woman that never gets married, or a man that never gets married, that's a problem already with the soul, is that particular soul had to come down to this world to correct something, and the other half did not want to come down. That's why you see people that they die single. Why? Because their other half was probably much, much better. That soul is sitting in Gan Eden, in heaven, and they're saying, I'm not coming down. Oh, no. You're going to do it yourself this time. So that's why it's not funny. It's sad, actually. Because the other half didn't want to come down and assist. That's why why is the Torah teaching us to be very respectful to the women and to make them like our queens and so forth and so forth? Say thank you that she bothered to come down to help you. She could have sit now in Gan Eden with a margarita and enjoy the beautiful party there. So the Torah tells us, be very thankful to your wife because she came to help you. But you can help your other half, and that goes also to the men, not only to the women. Until you meet your other half, anything good that you do in this world will reflect on the other person. And I heard something amazing not too long ago, but it's a very long story. The punchline was that when the couple met, there was they were able to track down in time how one's acts affected the other person. And one of them was very sick, and exactly that time, the period in life, the other half was doing so much good things, and miraculously that person got healed. So what I do totally affects directly my other half, whether I'm married or not married. When I'm married, that's you're next to each other. But when you're not married, anything good that you'll do will affect your other half and will assist the other half, and that goes to women and men. So you have to wait to the right time. Sometimes a lot of people have to wait 10, 20 years till they meet the other half. Not because it's not they're not ready. The other half might not be ready. Recently I met a couple that one of my wife's friends. She was the girl of the crowd that never got married. All the weddings, she was there by herself. All the Shabbat meals, she by herself. Everybody was feeling bad. This poor girl, and she's gorgeous and beautiful, and everything was great. She never got married. Finally now, she got married 3 years ago. I came out to Los Angeles, we met them. Why did she not get married? Her husband only became religious 3 years ago. And 15 years he was traveling around the world in parties in India and everywhere, and she was waiting for him to be ready. And whatever she did spiritually probably assisted him that he was on his journey, find himself the right path. We're good?
Good. So, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So, I'm not going to cut you off. I'll tell you guys, the rabbi was so kind that he offered to stick around as late as you guys want. So,
But I was joking.
too bad. He's bound now. He said it. It's an edit. So what's going to happen is we're going to have dinner, and there's a few things that I want to run through. Firstly, I want to thank you so much for coming out.
You want the mic?
You guys can hear me, right? We're good? No? So, firstly, thank you so much for coming out.
My pleasure.